The patient in room 7 hasn't slept in 9 days. This is not an accident. You have ordered it. The protocol calls for extended wakefulness as a precondition for what comes next. The receptivity phase, the window between the dissolution of the prior personality and the moment when a new pattern can be introduced. That's the language you use internally, dissolution. Receptivity, pattern introduction. You chose this language carefully. You chose it because it makes what you're doing sound like engineering, and engineering is something that can be evaluated objectively without the interference of other kinds of thinking. It's 1957, you're in Montreal, and the woman in room 7 came here for depression. You are a psychiatrist. You hold a position at one of the most prestigious psychiatric research institutions in North America. Your credentials are real. Your publications are real. Your reputation, before all of this, was built on legitimate clinical work. The Allen Memorial Institute sits on the slopes of Mount Royal in a stone mansion built in the 1860s. It has sweeping views of Montreal. It looks like a place where healing happens. From the outside, it continues to look like that. You joined the research program 3 years ago. The recruiter was precise, a government-funded initiative investigating the limits of human psychological conditioning. The purpose, he said, was defensive. The Soviet and Chinese programs were advanced. The Americans had fallen behind. Understanding what the human mind could be made to do under extreme conditions was a national security necessity. You told yourself you were a scientist. You told yourself the information would protect people. You told yourself the word defensive. The funding came through the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology, a foundation registered in New York, funded, as you know now, entirely by the CIA's technical services staff. The paperwork that flows through your office describes it as a private research grant. Your supervisor is a man named Ewan Cameron. Dr. Cameron is a giant in his field, former president of both the American and World Psychiatric Associations. He developed the techniques you are now administering. He calls the program psychic driving and depatterning. Depatterning means what it sounds like. You destroy the existing pattern, you reduce the patient to a state prior to personality, a blank. Then you write on the blank. Room 7 is a woman named Mary. You know her by her file number technically, but her name is in the intake records and you know it. She came in for depression, moderate, the kind that responds well to conventional treatment. She has a husband, 2 children. She was referred by her family physician for what was described as persistent low mood following a difficult pregnancy. She has been in the institute for 8 weeks. In those 8 weeks, she has received insulin-induced coma therapy at intervals your protocol specifies, electroconvulsive therapy at 3 times the dosage that would be used in standard clinical practice, continuous audio playback, her own recorded voice, looped, repeating a message that Dr. Cameron constructed, playing through earphones during sleep state induction, and through speakers in her room during waking hours. 9 days of chemically induced sleeplessness. She no longer remembers her husband's name consistently. She no longer remembers her children with clarity. Last Tuesday, she did not remember she had children at all. You noted this in her file as prior contextual memory structures substantially attenuated. You are aware that what you have done to this woman has not helped her depression. You are aware that what you have done to her has not helped anything. You are aware that the patients who pass through this ward do not leave better than they arrived. Most leave worse. Some do not fully recover. You have been telling yourself that the knowledge justifies the cost. This morning, for the first time, you are not certain you believe that. You find the file you weren't supposed to find on a Wednesday morning. It's in a drawer in Dr. Cameron's office. You're covering for him while he's in Washington. A meeting with the funding people. You're looking for a specific patient's intake form, and you go to the wrong drawer. Inside is a folder. The label on the folder is a project code you don't recognize. Inside the folder, a list of names, dates, institutions. 7 institutions in the United States and Canada, patient populations. Some of the patient populations are described as voluntary subjects with full informed consent. Most are not. Most are described as available populations. Available populations, meaning people who were in a place and in a condition that made them unable to object effectively. Prisoners, hospital patients in psychiatric wards, people who had been committed involuntarily, soldiers in medical facilities, people whose social position made them, as the document puts it, low visibility subjects. The work you've been doing in Montreal is not a pilot program, it's one node in a network. The network has been running since 1953. The patient populations total in the thousands. None of them consented, none of them were told. You think about Mary in room 7. You think about every patient whose file you've processed. You think about the family physician who referred them, who wrote moderate depression on the referral form, who trusted that the institution receiving his patient was going to help. You put the folder back, you close the drawer, you sit in the chair in the corner of Cameron's office for a long time. Then you go to your own office. You begin very carefully to make notes. You write to a colleague at Johns Hopkins. You don't say what you found, you frame it as a research ethics question, a hypothetical. If a researcher discovered that a program they were participating in involved non-consenting subjects, what were their obligations? Your colleague responds promptly, mandatory reporting to the relevant research ethics board, to the institution's leadership, and potentially to the relevant regulatory authority. He says there is no ethical gray area. You read his response. You read it again. You know that the relevant institution's leadership knows. You know that the funding body knows. You know that what you would be reporting to is the institution that is conducting the research. You draft a letter to a senator whose name has appeared in public statements about intelligence oversight. You draft it carefully. You describe what you've seen without naming the program, without naming Cameron, without naming the CIA. You describe it as a concern about a research program at a psychiatric institution. You read it over. You realize that anyone who receives it and follows the chain will arrive at the Allen Memorial Institute within 3 phone calls. You don't send it, instead you begin documenting. Systematically, patient files, protocols, funding documents, everything you can access without triggering an alert. You create copies, you plan to take them when you leave, you've decided to resign, you've decided to leave the program, leave the institute, and take what you know somewhere that it will matter. You have 2 more sessions scheduled before your planned departure. Dr. Ewan Cameron retired from the Allen Memorial Institute in 1964. He died in 1967 of a heart attack while hiking in the Adirondacks. He was never charged with anything. In 1977, a U.S. Senate hearing on MKUltra revealed the program's existence. The CIA had destroyed most of the documents in 1973. Director Richard Helms ordered the files shredded when it became clear the Senate was going to investigate. Some survived because they were misfiled in a financial records archive that wasn't caught in the purge. In 1979, 9 former patients of the Allen Memorial Institute filed a civil lawsuit against the CIA and the Canadian government. They described what had been done to them: memory loss, personality changes, inability to function in daily life, children they could no longer recognize, years of their lives simply gone. The CIA settled in 1988. $750,000 for 9 plaintiffs. Divided, no admission of wrongdoing. The Canadian government settled separately. Neither settlement included a full public accounting of what the program did to how many people over how many years. Here is what the documented record shows. At least 150 researchers across 80 institutions received CIA funding through the MKUltra program. The experiments ran from 1953 to 1973. The subjects included prisoners, psychiatric patients, hospital patients, soldiers, and private citizens who had no idea they were participating in a government intelligence program. Dr. Cameron's specific protocols, the depatterning, the psychic driving, the extended sleep therapy, caused documented permanent cognitive damage to a number of patients. The full scope of the program, how many subjects, how many institutions, how many countries, cannot be reconstructed because the documents were shredded. What you know and what the surviving documents confirm is this. The woman in room 7 was not a research subject. She was a mother with moderate depression who was referred to what her doctor believed was a legitimate psychiatric institution. She left without knowing her children's names. The last note in her file, in your handwriting, reads, "Patient demonstrates substantial attenuation of prior personality structure. Depatterning phase complete. Driving protocol to commence next session." The note was written the morning you decided to leave. You left 3 days later. You left the copies in a drawer in your office. You never went back.